You've spent decades climbing up that mountain towards retirement, saving and investing, doing all the right things. But here's the problem. The same strategies that got you up the mountain might be the exact ones that cause you to kind of fall all the way back down the backside of the mountain when you get to retirement. And most people, they never really realize it until it's too late. There are really two different kinds of financial advisors out there. If we're talking general, high level. Each one is built for like a different stage of the journey, right? One helps you climb up the mountain. I call that an accumulation advisor, focused on growth and investing and like performance. The other helps you come down the backside of the mountain safely, a distribution advisor, focused on planning, income planning, investment planning, tax planning. Here's the catch though. Most people reach retirement still working with the first type, the climber, the one that's helping them get up the mountain. But when you get towards the top of the mountain, it's really important to start thinking differently and working with a different type of advisor. So in this video, I'm going to show you the difference between the two types of advisors and when you should be working with the right one. Because if you take the wrong step coming down the backside of the mountain, you could fall all the way down. Reaching the top of the mountain is a huge achievement, but getting down the backside safely, that's where real retirement begins. For decades, the financial industry has been built around one goal: help people grow their money. And honestly, I don't know, it makes sense. You've been working, you've been putting money into the 401k, but the industry never has really stopped to see what happens when the climb up that mountain towards retirement is over and we start coming down the backside, right? The paycheck stops and the market kind of wobbles and your focus shifts from accumulation to preservation. Most people discover they're following the wrong guide. And that's where danger can kind of start to come in, because most retirees are still working with someone that's helping them get up the mountain. And now it's time to change and start coming down the backside of the mountain. It's not so much about growth and performance and returns, but it's more about what you keep in the planning that you can provide. One big drop early in retirement can undo decades of progress. And when you add taxes and inflation and healthcare costs to the mix, it's easy to feel like the climb down the mountain can feel steeper than the climb up the mountain. So, how do we fix it? It starts with changing the way you think, and you need to stop thinking about it's just about investing and start thinking it's about planning. A true retirement plan isn't about chasing the next market high. It's about creating structure, right? It's creating a foundation for your income, walls for like your investable assets that need to be flexible when life changes, and a roof for like that long-term growth that we can offset inflation with. The shift from the accumulation to distribution isn't about financial change. It's about like mindset change. So here's where I'd start if I were you watching this and wondering, am I on the right trail? Ask yourself, do I know exactly where my income is coming from in retirement? Right? The other thing I think about is like, do you understand how the taxes are going to impact those withdrawals from your accounts? Have you protected yourself from big drops in the market? Are you a forced seller in a down market? And if those answers kind of like make you hesitant and maybe it's time to rethink your approach, I'd suggest watching this video to the end, right? So when we break it down, the accumulation advisor is someone that is narrowly focused on growing your dollars. How big can we get that bucket? They're not worried about income. They're just worried about rates of return, market performance, and maybe like asset allocation, or a less fancy word of what are we invested in, right? And that works really good. And a lot of times those accumulation advisors are like really, really good at what they do. You're going to see them in probably like strip malls, some of the bigger names that are across the nation. And they're going to be really good at building out a portfolio and saying, hey, let's save money and get that bucket as big as you can. But when it comes to coming down the backside of the mountain, I think your mindset really needs to change from how big can we get that bucket and performance and exactly what investments are we using to how do we get down the backside of the mountain and not have to worry about following all the way around, right? You've made it to the top of the mountain now, and you're kind of in the danger zone. It's like the paycheck's going to stop, and now your portfolio has to turn into a paycheck, right? Sequence of returns, not being a forced seller in a down market, losing too much money early right out of the gates when you retire as you're taking money out can get ugly in a hurry, right? We need to start focusing on, when we get to the top of that mountain and coming down the backside, the distribution phase. And you need to be working with a distribution advisor, right? And those distribution advisors, they need to be talking about a whole planning process. They need to be talking about income planning, investment planning, tax planning, right? Healthcare, legacy planning. They should have at least 3 to 5 different areas of planning that they're focusing on, because it's all about planning when you come down the backside of the mountain, not just how do we invest the dollars and get them to grow as much as possible. So the descent is really all about the distribution stage, right? And the climb is all about the accumulation phase. So making sure you're focusing in those right areas when you're in those stages of life is most important. When you get to the descent, you want your income, you want to be confident in your income. You don't want to have like performance anxiety. The market went up today, market went down. Oh no, are we going to have a paycheck, right? And you want to be working with an advisor that is very much planning focused, right? Income planning, investment planning, tax planning. Maybe it's healthcare and legacy planning as well. You want to be using different tools to make that plan come to life. You don't want to like measure your success by how high you can climb anymore. It's more like, hey, I want to measure my success on how safely I can get back down the backside of the mountain. Here's a couple things I'd be asking your advisor. How will my plan adjust as I move through retirement? If they don't really have that mapped out, you're probably not working with a distribution advisor. You're probably still working with an accumulation advisor, and it might be time to make that change. When you work with the right type of advisor for the right stage of your journey, everything feels different. You stop worrying about every market swing. You stop checking that stock app on your phone every day, and you stop wondering, hey, am I going to run out of money? Because now you have some sort of a plan that's written down that you can organize, track, and test for your income, and there's structure to it. It's built from where you are in life, not where you were 20 years ago when you started climbing up that mountain and building that 401k or that IRA as much as you can. The climb down is now about protection and purpose. Most advisors and most investors only plan for the first half of the journey. But the true financial freedom isn't just about reaching the top of the mountain. It's about getting home safely with confidence and dignity and peace of mind. So if you're standing here at the top of the mountain and this video is kind of hitting home with you and you're ready to retire, or maybe you're talking or thinking about taking those first steps down the mountain, it's time to ask yourself, what type of an advisor am I working with? Am I working with an accumulation advisor or a distribution advisor? And is that right for the current phase of life that I'm in? 210 Financial, we are working on the distribution phase of retirement. That's what we do every day. That's why we build out plans every day. So if you think you're working with the wrong type of advisor for the wrong phase of life and you need a little help trying to get down the backside of the mountain, feel free, reach out to us. We'd love to walk through that with you. Talk through, hey, you're currently working with a distribution advisor. Maybe that's okay. Or I didn't realize it. I never thought about this, but I am definitely still working with an accumulation advisor, and it's time to start coming down the backside of the mountain, and I need to make a change. We can walk through that with you. So don't forget to like and subscribe so you can continue to get educated, so we can continue to kind of build this relationship of education and understanding of your financial journey. We'll see you next time.